This is Judy Alter, the Optimistic BA. And I am continuing something that I started last year. I was doing shows on who I felt were the 10 top BAs on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, my health had other ideas in finishing it. I did 7 of the shows. Paula Bell interviewed Dr. White for me. And the 2 people I still have left to interview are today, I'm interviewing Angela Wick. And then in June, I will interview Jamie Champagne. So I didn't really rank the BAs in any sequential number, but I guess I left 2 of maybe the more popular or bigger ones until last. Now, Angela, I was remembering back how we met. I heard you talk at IBAD, the Iowa conference, and I was very impressed with your presentation about the BA to CEO. And I don't think you had been speaking all that long when we did meet, to be honest. And I asked you to speak at the Heartland conference in Omaha, where I live, later that year. And so when I was giving you the schedule and stuff, I said to you, well, I'm going to have a meeting for BA managers like the night before. So could you maybe, speak at that? And you said, sure. And then I contacted you and said, my company, we're doing the monthly BA group meeting, and could you maybe come and speak at that? And so I bribed you with lunch afterwards. And so I really got my money's worth that first time, I guess, 3 for 1. And, it was a good time. And you spoke at several conferences for me when I was running the conferences. And then the last conference that I was involved with Heartland, you and me and Paula Bell did a panel, and that was a riot. That was so much fun. So
flashbacks, Judy. I'm just like all of a sudden flashing back to these different rooms and settings, because I think I've been to Omaha a handful of times. So
yeah, exactly. You came more than once, and we got to go have a little bit of fun. And I'm sure we both look the same. Nobody's aged. But I know that you've been a consultant, a trainer, a speaker, and you've taught different certification classes. And I know that actually now you're more of a content creator, a community builder, and I know that you also do coaching and you teach on LinkedIn. So what is your favorite? I mean, do you have a favorite that you've done through the years?
No, I like the mix of it all. I mean, I'm your typical BA that just likes to keep learning, keep exploring, keeps experimenting. And I get kind of bored if I'm doing the same thing for too long. So I think that's where I like the mix of it all, right? And I like the challenge of creating content about something complex, but making it super simple and practical. That's what drives me and gets me in that zone, in that flow, is trying to meet that challenge, right? How can I take this super complex thing we do, and there's lots of it, right? Hundreds of complex things we do in business analysis, and how can I make it into that tiny little learning chunk, and then how can we build community around it and raise the entire profession? Those are the things that drive me more than anything. So
well, and it's important to be a lifelong learner, because if you stop learning, you may as well just stop living, because you really need to learn. I have a saying that you really need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and then you haven't just reached the comfort zone, which should just be a pit stop, not a destination. So and as we both know, we can't just do one thing, or we would not be eating really well every month, So what I asked every VA that I had on this same question, and I said, what is the most significant business analysis trend in the next 5 years?
I think it's AI, artificial intelligence, for sure. I think it's going to completely change how we work, and it's going to force us to upskill and honor what business analysis is all about. So, like, you think about AI and generative AI, things like ChatGPT, and it's not only going to change the type of projects we work on and how we incorporate it, but it's going to change our work as BAs as well. Right? You're nodding. You've been looking into it as well, right?
I've played around with ChatGPT, Bard, which is through Google, and I also have used. I really like Microsoft Designer. Canva's kind of been my go-to, and what's good about that is I can schedule posts through there.
Yeah.
But I do like Microsoft Designer too. And it's funny, last year there were probably 7 out of the 8. They mentioned the fact in some form or fashion that the biggest thing was going to be that it would become more about business analysis, and there possibly could be less people with the title of business analyst. But there's been enough months go by that the AI has hit the scene. And so,
I mean, I agree, because one of the things that really sticks with me about what this generative AI can do is I really believe within months or maybe a couple of years, organizations will be using generative AI to create system documentation of what was coded.
Yep.
So let's think about that. We already have struggles with BAs using requirements documentation as system documentation, not just BAs, but teams. And that's never been a best practice. That's not how it's supposed to go.
No.
So, right, requirements are requirements. They're not system documentation, right? And the more we try and make requirements into system documentation, the longer it takes, the more it's delayed, the more we don't look great as a profession. Because we're delaying the project by putting so much of that system detail in. We're not creating technical excellence, yada, yada. Right. So if we think about generative AI being able to actually create the system documentation for us, meaning for the teams.
Yeah.
What's left for BAs? The real requirements work, the real analysis work, which means visual models, facilitation skills, all of the advanced BA skills that I'm wagering to guess 90% of BAs don't yet have.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not about taking notes and documenting the system, and it won't be. We've got to change this to stay alive, literally.
Yeah. Well, no, and that's a couple of years ago, people were all up in air. Oh, the robots are going to replace us. The robots are going to replace us. No. Any sort of artificial intelligence is just going to make us be able to do what we're supposed to have been doing for years and do a better job. You're not.
Yeah. And if we don't step up and do it, you're right. The title will go away and a different job title will take on what we are supposed to be doing.
Right. That's very true. And, I felt that way too. And there's still some BAs, and we're going to talk about Agile in a minute, but, they think they still need to write these pluribus documents of all this stuff. And I think a lot of it is the CYA syndrome. They've had their hand slapped for not documenting something. But, I don't miss those big waterfall documents at all. And maybe we can do the documents at the right time where we're not having 4, 5, 6 versions or more, in the span of a project. Gee,
Judy, do you remember the days when we used to have those huge binders on our desk with the requirement documents?
Yeah.
We would create them and then print them out into the huge binders with tabbed sections.
Yes.
Am I aging myself?
No, because I remember, it was nothing to put together a 60 or 80 page document. you know.
Oh, yeah, hundreds of pages.
Oh yeah. I mean that, well, okay, I was kind of going a little light there, but that was pretty much, and sometimes I would put stuff in there. And it was just to see if people read it. And when they didn't say anything about the stuff, I knew they couldn't have read it, And I swear most of the developers never read it. So,
You put like the thou shalt put a green M&M inside the system.
yeah.
Something like that, and see if anyone actually read it.
Exactly. In fact, one of our mutual friends, Danelkas, has told the story of how once in a document she put a note where they were going to have a project celebration and they were going to have lunch on Friday and to show up at such and such a place at such and such a time. And there was only about 4 people there because no one read her document. So,
and you wonder if all of them got there from reading the document, or was it word of mouth?
Everybody was sworn to secrecy, do not say anything. And that was it. So they had a pretty good time on the big budget that was meant for about 20, 25 people.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, I always thought that was awesome. A couple times I threw a Google map of somebody's house in there that was going to be reading the document. They missed it,
Oh, it's funny.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But yeah, I'm really excited about artificial intelligence and what what that will mean. It's probably the one time I really wish I was a little younger.
My favorite experiment I did this week with it is like Monday or Sunday. I prompted GPT. I said, "Hey, I said, pretend you are a world-class business analyst." GPT. It's all about the prompting, right? So pretend you're a world-class business analyst and you are redesigning or implementing an upgrade to an accounts payable system, and you need to do a requirements workshop incorporating design thinking and collaborative games. So I threw some trendy words out there, right? Can you help me plan this workshop? And then I hit return. And it was amazing what it came back with. It came back with an agenda using like empathy mapping and all these great, cool visual models and how to facilitate it. And then the next question I asked was like, great, thank you so much. Can you tell me more about this technique and how to go about prepping and planning for it? And it gave me a whole other page of details and instructions about it. So yeah, I mean, it's all in that prompting skill of what are you asking it to do? You can't just open it up and say, plan me a workshop. You get it. What's the workshop about? What are the goals? I think I gave it goals and objectives. I said, now redo the agenda if my goal and objective is this.
Yeah.
And it redid it. And so I thought it was just super interesting. But what hit me was, in order for a business analyst to use that effectively, they do have to have some confidence in their facilitation skills, and some experience and training on how to actually facilitate a collaborative workshop like that. On top of understanding the technique. I mean, you can keep asking it questions to teach you, but all of a sudden you're spending 8 hours asking ChatGPT, teaching you all about the agenda it created. Or do you go to real BA training for that, right? So it's I think it's fascinating, but it's definitely going to require us to level up, because those with real good BA skills and can use artificial intelligence are literally going to leapfrog those that don't.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yes. And AI, as helpful as I think it's going to be, as you know, the one thing we do with anything we work on is we have to talk to people. And you have to have those soft skills to be able to handle the people, because I don't care how smart you are or how many diagrams you can draw. If you can't talk to the people, you're not going to get too far. That's the biggest thing. And so, but I'm excited to see what the future will bring. I probably haven't tried all the tools, but I've got 3 of them, and that's enough for me to be distracted by.
I am with you though. I am having thoughts of the whole like, dang, am I going to be gone before some of this? Like, I mean, no, definitely AI is definitely going to in the next 5 years, which is a question. But then it just makes you go, if we can advance that far in 5 years, what's going to happen in 40?
I
or,
know. Yeah,
right? And am I still
exactly.
going to be around to see it,
Yeah. Exactly. I know I have those same thoughts. In my case, I probably would have dug into like cybersecurity and data a little more than I
Yeah.
have. I know enough to get by. So,
I watched
but if
a
I were,
movie last night, and it was an old movie in black and
oh,
white. I
yeah.
think it was set
Okay.
in like the teens or 20s, maybe.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, it was in this old-fashioned theater too. But what was fascinating to me is, I guess typewriters were around, but there was this like office building with 500 desks, and all of the men had notebooks and telephones on their desk.
Oh,
And all of the women had typewriters on their desk, and there was like man, woman, man, woman, man, woman right next to
oh,
each other.
wow.
And I'm trying to think what year it is that, those were the technologies in play.
Mm.
All I could think of is like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, how did they do their work? What business process are they running right now?
Yeah.
And like, this was business back then. There were no computers on the desk, and it was a lot of it almost looked like the men's job was to write things down and hand it to someone with a typewriter.
That would be my guess. Yeah.
Like maybe it was insurance or something, and they
Yeah.
were writing things down, talking to people, and then someone had to type it all up, and then that became a policy, or I don't know. It was just, I mean, I almost wasn't paying attention to the actual movie because I was so enthralled.
With
BA
what
brain
was
here.
going on. Yeah.
I was so enthralled with like, how does this business process get done?
Yeah. Of course, with being BAs, we never have an off button, so we're always looking around. I know I after being on social media with Adrian for a few years, I discovered that as he was talking about how, I'm in this hotel and this light switch is not really in a great place and things like that, and I'd find myself doing the same thing.
Yep.
Turn it off. But
the more you travel, the more hotel design comes into mind.
Yes. Oh, exactly. Yes. But I know when I first went to work at Mutual in 1984, we did not have computers on our desks.
Mm-hmm.
So, you had to call down somewhere if you wanted to find out if a check had been cashed or something.
Uh-huh.
And we had a certain limited amount of microfiche to look up other things. And I just think back to that. And so everything we did was in a paper file. That's just crazy because that wasn't that long ago. I mean, 35 years ago, but still, it was. And it was another 3 or 4 years before we actually got computers, but it was the dumb green screen. It wasn't a PC like today. So that's just crazy. But let's talk about Agile.
Yeah.
I consider you to be an authority on Agile.
Yeah.
I know we share a lot of the same viewpoints because there are a lot of things I think that are like myths and misunderstandings about Agile. A couple of them being, you don't need requirements. And, you don't need any documentation. And silly stuff like that. And you really don't need a business analyst. Well, somebody has to do business analysis. So what myths do you want to try to set the record straight on?
Yeah, all of those are good ones, and they're all about the exact definition of the word you're using more than anything, right?
Yeah.
But I think the one that I want to hit on is, I was actually going for a walk the other day, and all of a sudden, I don't know how, on my Spotify podcast, I had my earbuds in, and this podcast started talking about Agile, and I'm like, oh, is this a new one? And I get excited and I look at it. Somehow my phone had dug up a podcast about Agile on Harvard Business Review's podcast network from 2016. And it was Jeff Sutherland. And I'm like, wow, this is like 7 years old. Oh. And I'm like, well, let's see what they had to say about it back then. I was kind of curious, started walking down the street. And what hit me, and I'm glad I listened to it, is we forget that Agile was born out of the idea of getting closer to the customer.
Yes.
And that is lost in so many places, right?
Exactly.
Like, especially when it's like IT is Agile, the rest of the organization's not. Okay.
Mhm.
Or we don't need business analysis, yet we're the role to help people get closer to the customer. Like, right? Like, it's like everything that seems to pull it all together for me. All the practices that teams struggle with, like, well, we're not allowed to talk to customers, or no, we can't go access our customers. We don't do that here. It's like, well, then how much are you really embracing Agile ways of working? Because everything about Agile is about getting closer to the customer.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And when we embrace, like, who are we as BAs, our entire purpose is to help users, customers, and technology come closer together. So
right.
It's so funny that there's that phrase that gets batted about that there's no BA in Agile. It's like, actually, I think that's what Agile's all about, is
Right.
the work we do.
Exactly. I think too many people take the BA manifesto that came out of that 2021 ski trip that 17.
Oh, the Agile manifesto?
Yes. Yeah. Because the business analyst is not listed as an official.
So actually, there aren't any roles or titles listed in the manifesto.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
It's the Scrum guide that
a
lot of people are referring to, that they're saying there's only these 3 and these 3 only.
Right. Yeah.
And that's not actually what it says.
No.
What it says, in the intention of it, is we're going to go with the 3 most common denominator roles that every organization would have, and it says that the entire cross-functional Agile team must have the following skills, and business analysis is listed.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm not sure about the current version of the Scrum Guide, but in many previous versions of it, the word business analysis occurs multiple times, and never does it say there is none. It's just like, you take a small startup company that doesn't have BA roles, a developer is going to, or a product owner is going to have those skills instead, right? And the other thing that I think Agile is trying to put out there, or those that are trying to be dogmatic about it, they're really just saying, stop thinking about titles. Just the work needs to get done. It doesn't matter who does it.
Right.
And we all know analysis has to happen. And it's kind of funny because on LinkedIn, I get a lot of interesting little comments on my posts, about Agile posts. And, once in a while, you'll get like someone who will be the type that might say there's no BA in Agile, kind of hammering on my posts a little bit. And I love kind of having the banter back and forth with them in the comments, where it's like, oh, so who does analysis? And they'll say, well, anybody can do analysis. Yeah, anybody can. What happens if it's not done? Oh, then we don't get good results.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hello. Yeah.
And so, sometimes it's like, in some ways, Agile created its own little language, but my feeling is that its own little language of roles or whatever, or Agile did, maybe Scrum did, but that's not everybody's reality. So we can't speak Japanese to people that don't speak Japanese.
Exactly.
So when people kind of get at me for talking about BAs and Agile, I just say, well, but that's who my audience is, and they want to be educated about Agile. So but I understand where they're coming from, where it doesn't matter what the title is or the role is, the analysis has to happen, BA or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I'll tend to poke people a little bit and go, my audience is BAs. So I'm going to use that term, no matter you do or not.
Exactly. I do enjoy when you put an Agile post out there, and then they all show up trying to tell you all about it.
Oh, do you read them? You think they're fun?
Oh, yeah, I read them, man. And sometimes I'll make comments, but we agree pretty much. So there's nothing to banter about.
And that's my goal, actually, is a soft banter, but to get to that collective agreement.
Yeah.
Right? That, hey, we're all saying the same thing here. This isn't a black and white thing. There's no BA. We're all saying that analysis has to happen. We're just using different terms and phrases and ways of saying it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's for sure, because I did Agile like the last 9 years. I worked in corporate America, and I always had the title senior business analyst. And there were more than one BA on a team. And many of our product owners, this was a little different. We weren't probably, textbook safe, but we were safe, I think, was the method that we did the best. Scrum, we really messed Scrum up. But, our product owners were mainly like the manager from like the department that we supported. Well, they didn't have time to do any business analysis, nor were any of them a business analyst in the past. So they didn't have that skill. And so they really needed us more than anything in order to get something done, but
so that's the biggest challenge I see, is honoring the original idea of what Agile was supposed to be about, getting closer to the customer and your users, and everything that we do and the best practices that we should be employing on Agile teams supports that. User stories should be about users, not about systems.
Exactly.
Acceptance criteria is about the user's acceptance, not the system tasks to do. Right? There's so much of these anti-patterns that happen because this idea that getting closer to the customer is forgotten.
Yeah, I think so. And I remember reading something, and it had to do with the Agile Manifesto and that whole group. And they said that really that group was very mushy about people. And it only stands to reason that they would have, said, we need to get close to the customer.
Yeah.
So,
I think though some of the roots in getting closer to the customer are before the Agile Manifesto.
Right. But they did say that group was also known as being pretty mushy,
Oh yeah.
For a while, I don't think that, the soft skills were quite as promoted as maybe they should have been. And that's kind of one of my niches. And so, but I've seen studies and things where hiring managers are more focused on the soft skills nowadays than the technical skills, because you can teach somebody, how to do Visio or how to do this template or about your company, but they're either people or they're not.
Right.
Normally you can't change them, I suppose, sometimes, but not always. So this is your time to talk about what you do and promote your businesses and things that you're into.
Oh, goodness. Well, I'm into a lot of things, as you know.
I know.
So I definitely like to stay busy.
Yep.
Today, I think it's going to be, like I joked with you before we went live, fixing my glasses. I'm missing a leg, and if anyone's like, why is she touching her glasses so much?
Yeah.
Why? Literally, they broke this morning. Of course, the business analyst in me had to try and fix it myself, and I failed miserably.
Yeah.
So what are my days all about? Well, I think the easiest way to kind of see what I'm up to is I've created a community where it's ba-cube.mn.co, where it's kind of a landing page that goes to a lot of things I'm involved with. And you can join a free community. And from there, you can get to a free LinkedIn learning path, which I have some of my courses in, and some of our other friends' courses are in there as well. So Microsoft and LinkedIn have teamed up to do a free learning path of 13 hours of education with a certificate. And so that's really cool. So there's a link to that. And then there's also on there a link to our community. I've got a free course for creating a modern BA practice out there, a link to that, which is super exciting. It's really all about how do we create a BA practice that really integrates with Agile and DevOps and digital and all those other things organizations are working on. And I've got some Chat GPT and AI experiments out there, just kind of really leveling up how we're thinking about business analysis. And then, of course, my bacube.com membership, where I've got all sorts of on-demand courses, live events, live mentoring and coaching. So that's kind of the ecosystem that I live in lately. And of course, on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn. I'm always putting all types of thought-provoking posts and commentary. And live events as well, like you do, right? It's all about giving back to the community and help leveling up. All of us putting stuff out there on LinkedIn and these types of things that we do is all helping just raise the level of business analysis around the globe, right? We raise our skills, we raise the profile, we raise the value that we can provide to organizations. So
really, and that's one of, that's probably the most important thing with a BA is to provide value.
It's a ba-cube.mn.co.
Okay.
It's pretty new. It's pretty new that I've kind of put that out there, and I'm still working on updating it. For now, it works. To get folks into some free community access, some conversations, some free course stuff, and then folks can upgrade from there if they'd like, or link out to the LinkedIn Microsoft Learning Path. So
all right, that's cool. I've seen different course out there for free for like 24 hours or something.
Oh yeah, no, this one is actually a program that Microsoft and LinkedIn partnered up on. They identified like the top 10 skills needed to be built around the globe, and like business analysis is one of them. And so they put together a learning path and a certificate program, and this all got launched like late last year. And so we've opened up these courses as part of this program where folks can like get a certificate. Hey, I've taken this entire thing, and it's all free.
Oh wow!
12 courses, and like 4 of them are mine in there.
Oh wow! That's
and then some of our other friends are in there as well, and some. So it's so it's a great opportunity to get some paper on business analysis on your resume, and to a good place to start. Like if you've never had formal BA training, if you've never, if you're just looking into the role, whatever it might be, or need a refresher on it, there's just so many good things there. And then, that one takes about 13 hours to complete. And then I say, hey, go deeper with these other things as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Then you figure out maybe a class you want to take, But yeah, most of the classes I've looked at on LinkedIn, they seem like they're reasonably priced, so it would be
it's a membership more than anything that works best, right? So if you upgrade your LinkedIn account even to the $29 a month level, you can get access to 18,000 courses.
So that's
But again, this one has 13 of them for free, all about business analysis. So that's super cool.
Yeah, that would be a good start for somebody. And while we're on the subject, we are both going to be speaking at the same conference in about 3 weeks. It is BBC, which is Building Business Capability. It's also the official conference of IIBA. But we're going to see a lot of our friends. And, in my case, I haven't seen a lot of people, well, including you, since November 2019. I was ill last year and couldn't come in person. I was supposed to be there, but I was grounded, which wasn't fun. I was grounded most of the last half of 2022. But so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, I did go last year, but it was a smaller group last year. So it'll be exciting. Hopefully a much larger conference and group this year, and in Las Vegas. And it should be a great time. I feel like it's a quick trip though. I think I fly in on Tuesday afternoon and I leave on Friday morning. Like it's quick.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I go to BA and Beyond later in May.
Oh, yes.
Which is Brussels and Amsterdam.
Right. Yes. I have spoken for that conference virtually.
Okay.
I think twice. I'm not speaking this year, but I've got 3 back-to-back trips planned, so I'll be plenty tired by the time BA and Beyond is starting.
I think all of us will be. I think anyone who's speaking at BA conferences, May is kind of the big month this year for it all. They all seem to be happening in May, right?
I know a lot of people move their conference without paying attention to their other communication. And some of them like scheduled the same week as BBC and had to move them. And it was kind of funny watching the calendar games a couple months ago. It was, it was just funny,
Yeah, I think all of us in the industry, it's like anybody needs anything in May, it's like, nope, it's just conference month.
Nope.
Right?
I know. Yeah, exactly. Totally booked. Well, I do look forward to catching up with you more next month at BBC.
Yeah, I do too.
And to the audience, I hope that you enjoyed today's podcast. when we get it out there, it should be out there not long after the recording. And until next time, make sure you keep your glass at least half full. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.